Hello, my name is Nicholl, and thank you so much for taking this time out to listen. Today, I would like to talk about the reactions to death. The reactions to death. When I experienced a series of relatives within a 5-year time frame passing, what I didn't anticipate was the reactions to their deaths. Some people were quite talkative after a relative passed away. Others shut down and had nothing to say. Then, of course, there were those who stirred up much trouble leading up to death, during the time of death, and after everything was said and done. They continued to keep up drama. People are not in their right mind, saints, when someone passes away, and we cannot look at them in the same way that we once did. Once someone experiences a loss of a loved one, they are never the same, depending on how close they were to the individual. So we have to wrap our heads around that, especially if you are counseling people. Know that when you're talking to them, you are not talking to the same person that you may have been sitting down and breaking bread with only a week or 2 weeks ago prior to the death of a loved one. This is where many people get themselves into trouble because they want so bad for things to go back to the way they used to be. And I will tell you from personal experience that there is a point of no return that usually comes when you recognize that certain people, certain places and things are no longer beneficial, or they have run their course, or God has gotten involved and said enough is enough, or people just don't want to be bothered. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing deep. There's nothing analytical. There's nothing spiritual. It's just at this time in my life, I don't want to be bothered. I can't take any negativity, no drama, no signs, no wonders, no visions, nothing from the Lord. Just leave me alone. And when people say that and when people behave like that, that is what we're supposed to do. Don't take it personal. Life goes on. When they are ready to come up out of their grief process, they will reach out. They will talk, or they may talk to you through other people. That is if you have a close relationship with them. If you don't, then don't expect any phone calls. Don't expect them to invite you to their events. Don't expect too much of anything because, like I said, some people are never the same after the death of a loved one. And we have heard it. We've heard those sorts of statements, but we don't really value those statements until those things happen to us. Now we value them. It's like, oh, now I get it when she said that so-and-so was never the same after her mother died. Oh, now I understand, when he told me that he was never quite the same when his dad passed away. You see, because now you're in it. And when you're in it, you don't necessarily react in the way that people want you to react. And that's where you definitely have to guard your heart, guard your mind, guard everything, because people will try to project what they believe, what they feel onto you. You should treat me this way because I want you to treat me this way. And that is the way you always treated me. Well, guess what? Newsflash. I went through something very difficult in my life, and I'm not going to treat you in the same way that you always wanted me to treat you, or I'm suddenly going to have some type of new revelation and start treating you in this profound way. That sort of thing doesn't happen to folks often. Okay. Matter of fact, that is so rare that someone suddenly gets this revelation that now I am going to really go all out and help everyone and do everything and start a foundation and reach out to family members and friends. That's rare. We see some of those news stories and we want that sort of stuff to happen in our families, and it just doesn't, It just doesn't. We get frustrated sometimes with people. We get very angry. We get impatient. We get bitter. Sometimes we start off okay in a conversation. Then the next thing you know, it turns ugly for whatever reason. Sometimes it's not about us. It's just somebody's going through some kind of meltdown, or we remind them of someone. Like some people cannot take looking at you because you look too much like the deceased loved one, and it breaks their heart every time they look at you. That's a tough pill to swallow. You know, that's why some of you all may be going through like you're going through, and others are treating you differently because you look like the deceased. You act like the deceased. You're going to say too much about the deceased. I got to protect myself because I don't want to be breaking down. I don't want to be crying. I don't want to be sad every time I look at you or every time I hear from you. So these are just things to be aware of when you are around those that are grieving, or if you are grieving. And if people don't respect you, or you're not respecting others, then of course you're not going to get along. Maybe in the short term or the long term, depending. So please do keep these things in mind. I felt compelled in my spirit to share this with you. I thank the Lord once again for just blessing me with the wisdom to provide you all. To God be the glory.